What is going on, everyone? I am Pat the Packman. Welcome to another episode of Barking for Balance, the show where we talk about dogs and we talk about all sorts of other good stuff. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How's everybody's day going today? Hopefully everybody's day is going well. On today's episode, I wanted to talk a little bit about how to correct a dog. I want to talk a little bit about that. I was thinking a few things that I wanted to go over that, kind of like happened today. And I think that's one topic that's from a dog perspective. I definitely want to address that. And I want to also talk a little bit about purpose, having a purpose, finding your purpose. Obviously my story is a little bit about all that stuff. So I wanted to talk about those areas in particular. So let's start off with the dog stuff first and foremost. Everybody loves dogs, so we'll start things off with dogs. Talking about dogs. How can you not love talking about dogs? I certainly do. And that's where my purpose comes into play. So but let's start with the dog stuff first. So when it comes to correcting dogs, so there's a bunch of different variations and different ways of how, people say you should correct a dog, or, a bunch of different theories on how you should correct a dog. This is how my theory is and what my approach is when it comes to correcting something in general. A lot of people don't correct their dogs in certain behaviors because they think it's acceptable. It's what dogs do. It's what you want them to do. So you let that go. But unfortunately, sometimes those behaviors tend to become more obsessive, more disruptive, and then all of a sudden people get aggravated, and then now you want to deal with it. Okay, so let's use an example. Let's use something like barking. So we'll have a dog that's just barking out the window. We just use, again, something very basic. So the first thing I want to preface is your job is to correct / disagree with that behavior. Okay. You want to let your dog know that it's not necessary to warn about every single person that goes by, every single dog that goes by, every squirrel, every leaf that gets blown through your house, by your house. It's unnecessary for them to notify you of every single thing that occurs. Okay. Most of the time, I mean, there's reasons why your dog is doing that. Just FYI, boredom and frustration, lack of physical and mental stimulation. We'll get to that at another time. But the fact that they're doing this, you want to disagree and let them know that that's just not necessary. A little bit of barking, sure. Excessive, not necessary. So how do we correct that kind of behavior? Is, again, you have to let your dog understand that your job, and you need to understand that your job is to establish those directions, those boundaries, and those limits. And that's why it's okay and needed for you to be able to correct your dog when they're doing such things. Okay. So again, we'll use an example of barking. So the first thing that you have to remember is no screaming. Don't scream, stop it, no barking, shut up. None of that stuff. You don't want to lead with frustration. Non t'arrabbiare, state calmo, okay? Which comes into calmness, okay? Being calm when you're correcting is crucial. You don't want to correct with frustration. You don't want to correct with anger. Sicilians, we scream and holler, but that doesn't mean that we're angry or frustrated all the time. It just means that we're screaming and hollering. That's just the way we talk. So siamo calmi, shake the water. Not always, but calmness is key. So when you're correcting, you want to always be calm. Don't lose your temper. If you get to that point, that means you let the behavior go too far. You let the behavior escalate because you never corrected it in the first place. You never disagreed with it in the first place. And that's why it started to become such a problem. And again, that's where most people end up having those kind of problems, because they never nip it in the bud. Okay. So remember, your job is to establish direction, boundaries, and limits, and you want to disagree with certain behaviors that are excessive, that are just unnecessary. And you're letting them know, knock it off. So that's what prevents the anger and the frustration from kicking in. When you're starting to scream and you're starting to get angry, you're basically adding more excitement to an already excited fire. Okay. So you think that you're putting it out, and instead, boom, boom, the explosion of excitement's already there. That's one of the reasons why they're barking. So we don't want to add more excitement, and screaming does exactly that. I mean, when you're screaming and you're angry, they're excited, you're adding that to it. They're barking, you're screaming, same behavior. Excitement, anger in the dog world, it becomes the same thing. It's still excited. So excitement. So those things have the opposite effect of what you're trying to achieve. So calm, firm, knock it off. Simple. Okay. Don't get angry. Don't get frustrated. A mistake that I see a lot of people making, and this is very crucial to understand when to correct, and this applies in a bunch of different areas as well, is that when you are correcting a specific behavior, you want to correct and then disengage. What do I mean by that? When you're correcting, you're saying, stop it. knock it off. Stop it. Stop it. Right? So, and women are famous for that. Oh, señora, you thought them. Women are famous for that. You stay in that mode, you'll get cut. A woman will get cut off in traffic at 8:00 in the morning, and by 3 on a Monday, and at 3:00 on a Friday, they're still complaining about it. Son of a bitch! I can't believe he did that. I know, señora, you thought them. I'm gonna get in trouble for that one, but some of you guys know it's true. We'll talk about my traffic habits at another time. I can relate to some of those things. But anyway, so you want to disengage. So the reason why you want to disengage after your correction is 2 reasons. Number one, you have to understand that dogs live in the moment. So moment to moment is when you're correcting the behavior or rewarding the behavior, okay? So if you continuously are in a corrective posture throughout that entire time, the dog is going through different moments, doing different things, and being in a different state of mind. So now at this point, you're correcting every single one. We want to allow our dog to process, to think, to figure out what is it that you want them to do. You want to allow time for the brain to go from a high level of intensity and to slowly come down. It's not going to just drop from a 10 to a 0 in one shot. It's not going to happen. It's going to, at least not at first, it's going to come down from a 10 to a 9 to an 8 to a 7. And that's where the patience has to come in. That's where we have to understand that we need to give our dog time to process what it is that we're asking them to do. So you're correcting, hey, stop. Okay, so you're interrupting, you're giving them time in between to give the brain time to process what it is that you're asking for. What does this guy want from me? Perché vuole questo? Perché mi inquieta, right? Io stavo abbaiando scoiattolo e tu mi inquieta. Now, when you're correcting in between, you're snapping the brain out of focus. You're snapping the brain out of fixating on whatever it is that they're fixating on, and the intensity automatically drops down. So the next time that they do it, a few seconds later even, they're in a lower level of intensity, a different level of intensity. So again, you're watching the brain slowly come down and to slowly become calmer and calmer and calmer. And that's the objective. So you want to correct and then disengage. Don't stay in a corrective posture for the entire time. It's correct. Give some space. Let that space do its work. Let that space do the thing that it's necessary for it to do, which is to let the dog figure out what is it that you want. Okay. Now, there's a bunch of different varieties of ways on how we're going to get the dog's attention. We're going to talk about that in a different time. Right now, I just want to get the overall concept of how to, come into a state of mind where you're correcting and then you're snapping out of it. Because when you stay again in that frame of mind of correcting, you're correcting the different moment. So we'll use the example of the barking as, we'll continue with the example of the barking. When you're repeatedly correcting, you're creating a confused dog. So what happens is that when they're barking, right? Now you're correcting. Hey, okay. So now there's a split second where he stops or she stops barking. Now, if you continue to correct or stay in that corrective mode, that corrective posture, you just corrected that next moment, meaning you just corrected the time when they did not bark. So now the confusion starts to kick in. Okay, so I was barking here and you're correcting me. I'm not barking here and you're still correcting me. I don't know what the hell you want from me. That's what happens. So now the dog doesn't exactly know what the hell you want. So they're going to think you're nuts. Okay. So give it time to give the dog some time to process what it is that you want. So you correct, then you wait, then you correct again if necessary. How much time has to go in between? I don't know. Don't use a freaking stopwatch. It's not really necessary to be on the exact second. Just, goddamn it, just wait a little bit of time. You know what I mean? Correct, come out of it. Now, the important thing is when you come out of it is to not stay in a corrective mindset. You gotta relax, because now you're feeding that relaxation to your dog during that period while they're processing. And now the relaxation affects them during the time when they're calm and they're quiet, I should say, when they're quiet, for even if it's for a split second. So now a different message is being sent at these different moments. Okay. So a message is being sent at different moments. And if you're doing it the proper way, if you're timing it the right way, you're going to start to see the brain slowly come down. Okay. And eventually it starts to relax. Now, along the process, there's going to be what I call blips. Okay. So the brain is coming down. It's at a level 10. Now it's at a level 3. And then all of a sudden it goes up to a 5. It's just a bit quick. Poof, poof. and then you see if you feel quiet. But if you feel the intensity, it's much lower than it was. Also, the time between the barks is not consistent. There's some space in between. So is it necessary to continue to correct? Absolutely not, because the space in between is doing its job. The brain is calming down. So those spike ups, it's not really necessary to correct because the brain is still in a downward spiral. It just spiked up for a minute, but if it continues to spike up, then you have to correct again because you want to block it before it has a chance to get all the way to the top again. But it's not really necessary if it's just a spike up, just a quick blip, because eventually, if you leave it alone, it's going to stabilize there and then it's going to start dropping down again. So you just let it go. There's times to ignore, and those are the times to ignore. When the behavior is at such a low level, just let it go. Let it go. When it starts to escalate, then you could deal with it. But at this point, if it's starting to drop, it's just a little spike up, a little blip, let it go. No need for it. Okay? So just remember the most important aspect of it is to correct and disengage. Give some time in between. In that period of time that you're giving in between, relax. Don't get no, calm. Then you correct. Hey, but make sure that when you are correcting, you don't lose that calmness. Your job is to correct and to earn respect and trust. You can't earn respect and trust when you can't control your own emotions. Dogs don't respect, trust, or follow anybody that is not in a stable, balanced state of mind. And if you're not in that state of mind when you're correcting, then they're not going to receive the message. You're not going to convey what it is that you're trying to convey. Okay. So make sure that you stay calm, you stay relaxed, you correct, assert yourself. Don't be, no, stop. And don't be, knock it off. Opposite sides. You know, we talked about balance, right? One side, the other side. You got to find the middle ground. That's how you find balance. Calm and firm together. One more than the other, you're off balance, message is not received, you don't achieve your goal. It's that simple. Okay. So remember that's a generalized way of correcting in a specific area. There's a bunch of different other variations to it, but the general concept is you want to correct moment to moment. You want to address state of mind. Don't worry about the body. Dog training tactics work on the body. They put a treat in their dog's face. They make the dog sit. They make the dog lay down. Blah, 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 blah. Vaffanculo. It doesn't do anything. We already know that. It does nothing when it comes to the state of mind. We're not correcting the barking, guys. What are we correcting? What do you think we're correcting here? Are we correcting barking? No, we're not correcting barking. We're correcting the reason why there's barking. And what's the reason why? Uno sa. Que fa? Historiaste. Vai historia. That's what my father used to say to me a lot. So we'll get to that another time. So, you know, you want to make sure that you understand the reason. We are not correcting the barking. We're correcting the reason for the barking, which is excitement. Excitement is the reason why they're barking. Now, obviously, is there other components to it? Sure. But in this particular case, we're correcting the excitement from a correction standpoint. There's other things that need to be done to fix that excitement, but this is just the correction component. And we're not using treats. We're not dangling chicken and say, hey, look at this over here. No, we're not doing that crap. Okay. We address the state of mind, that we focus on the brain. We don't focus on the body. We fix the problem. You know, we don't put a Band-Aid on the problem. Okay. You don't fix the barking. You fix the reason for the barking. Make sense? Okay. That's really what my purpose in doing this is, which actually brings me, that was a pretty good segue. I wasn't planning on that one. That could have worked out well. The segue of understanding purpose. You know, I was talking about purpose, and my purpose when I do this, when it comes to why I do this as a profession, is to educate. It's to teach people to understand dogs. That's why my mantra is it's about training people, not training dogs. We don't train dogs. We train people to understand the brain of a dog and to understand how to communicate dog language. Those are the two main things. It's actually just do it. No cuatro, do it. But that's the main thing, okay? And my purpose is to do so, is to share my knowledge and what I know for a fact that works, that's necessary to have a dog that's happy, fulfilled, and well-behaved, okay? Which in turn creates a human that's happy, fulfilled, and successful. It's a very, very delicate road, but it accomplishes everybody's goal and happiness. You know, it achieves everybody's goals. So, so that's my purpose, because, you know, when it comes to having a purpose. Dogs also have a purpose, dogs, like specific breeds have a purpose and like specific jobs, so like there's herding dogs, there's cattle dogs, there's protection dogs, there's retrieving dogs, there's all sorts of dogs, like wiener dogs. My girl Pepper is part dachshund, part wiener dog, and that long body is meant to like go in the holes to get out the little groundhog things, or the gophers, or whatever they're going in after. I should have done a little more research on what they're going after, but they're basically, their body is designed. That's why they're so long and slender, to go into those little holes. But they all have a purpose. They all have a reason, like something that they need to do. So without that purpose, without being fulfilled from a purpose standpoint, from a dog purpose, but also from a breed purpose, then they kind of start going down the wrong path. Like pit bulls, Socks, my dog Socks is a pit bull. And a lot of times those dogs, those breeds, they develop a bad habit is because for what they were bred for, if we're not fulfilling their needs in a different direction, then their instincts get channeled in that direction. And that's where we have a problem. Like I'm sure that, you guys know a lot of like cattle dogs that nip the ankles of children that are running around. That's because that's what they were supposed to do. That's their job, you know? So we want to fulfill their purpose. And sometimes we want to fulfill it in a different way, but this way they feel like their purpose is being accomplished. They're doing what they were meant to do. And, my purpose in doing this is in education. Like I said, because there's 3 different types of dog professionals. There's dog trainers, which I call trick-or-treaters. They focus exclusively on the use of treats and obedience commands. And then they have a purpose, sure, which is to teach those particular tricks, those particular exercises, whatever you want to call them. But it doesn't have anything to do with the behavior side. Okay. Then there's the like board and train type environments, and some of those people are some of the board and train facilities are meant to remove the burden, if you want to call it that, of the put the work in for dog owners to have to put things in place to be able to do what's necessary, or to fix or to rehabilitate. And they have their role. A lot of, unfortunately, some of these guys do this stuff because they don't want to share. They have, a wealth of knowledge. They know what's necessary, but they just don't want to share it with anybody else. They want to keep the secrets to themselves. And that's what they do. And that's great. And then there's guys like myself who really focus on educating people, dog owners, dog lovers. And why do I love that the most? Why does that give me so much purpose? Is because as a child growing up, I've always been fascinated with superheroes. My whole life as a kid, I always dreamt of saving people and being like a superhero. In fact, now, let's talk about superheroes for a second. I know I'm digressing into a whole different direction, but I'm a big Captain America fan. I love Captain America. That's my guy. So Captain America is my guy. So what do you guys like as far as like superheroes? DC, Marvel, whatever the case may be. And listen, it's all good to me. But let's have a little, not today, but maybe another time we'll have a little discussion about superheroes. But I love Captain America because it's just what he stands for and his personality. And, he doesn't really have any weapons and any particular superpowers, so to speak, but he cares, and he's worthy and all that kind of good stuff. And he goes against, he does what's right, even if it goes against what everybody else is saying, and he's always right for, one reason or another. He's always does the right thing. I don't want to create an argument about it, because I'm sure there's going to be a warfare. No, Captain America, just relax, guy. Let's all get along here. Okay. There's going to be enough backlash with all sorts of other shit. So let's calm down. So anyway, so I'm a big Captain America fan. So even as a kid, I always dreamt of like saving people. I always watched like the TV shows back in the day. They were really cool, like the A-Team and, the Knight Rider and the Dukes of Hazzard, where they're always like helping others and saving others and all that kind of good stuff. So I always loved and fantasized about being a hero and saving lives. And when I started doing this for a living, that's kind of like what I was doing when it came to the dogs. I was rehabilitating the dogs and teaching people about it. And, I was helping people grow and calm down and learn how this applies to their lives and how it improves their lives and make their lives better. And there's all sorts of other variations to it. But that's where my purpose comes into play, is because I'm fulfilling my need to be that hero, to be able to help and to save others. And it brings me happiness, And it took me a while. I mean, I was 40 years old when I discovered this, and that's neither here nor there. And we're gonna have a discussion in another podcast about one of my favorite topics, which is patience. We're gonna talk about that another time. Faith and patience combined, it's a home run. It's about God in my book. I apply those into God, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So, having a purpose is, um, what is it that, how could I put this? In order to discover your purpose, and purpose has nothing to do with necessarily like doing this for a job. You know what I mean? Because there is a difference between having a job and having a career and having a purpose. There's three different, completely different things. So, if you have a purpose, it doesn't mean that you have to do it to make money and do it as a living. It's just you're providing value to the world. You're making the world a better place. You're doing something that's not for you, that's for others, and you're helping others improve, whether it's animals, people, or in my case, it's both. That's really what having a purpose is about. So, if you don't have to necessarily do it for the money or to do it for a living, you just want to do it because it makes you feel good and it's helping making the world better. And essentially, this world could use a lot of better. This world is chaotic, and we live chaotic lives. And benda much santissima, we could use a lot of good. So, finding a purpose, and a purpose could be something simple. It could be something very basic. It doesn't have to be anything major. You don't have to save, I don't know, save the whales or whatever. You could do whatever it is. It's something that makes you happy and fulfilled. It could be, I don't know, drawing. It could be whatever it is. It's something that gives you fulfillment. That like the three questions, when people ask me about this, they say, well, how do I find my purpose? Obviously God presented my purpose to me. It took a long time, and that's sometimes it's necessary. You've got to be in the right position, in the right state to be able to take that in. But people ask me, like, how do I find my purpose? And sometimes purpose will find you. But if you're trying to find that purpose, I say, you want to ask yourself three questions. And the first question is, what do you like? Right? What do you like to do? What do you like? I mean, I can summarize it just like that. What do you like? The second question is, what do you enjoy? What do you enjoy? Okay. And the third question is, what do you care about? So what do you like? What do you enjoy? And what do you care about? And again, it doesn't mean you have to put a timeline on this. You don't have to answer this right away, but you want to internalize this and let those questions sink in, get some roots down, and before you know it, it blossoms. Because, again, God presented this situation, my purpose, at a later time. But I do realize that this was the time. Having it done back then, I don't think it would have worked, because there was so much stuff that happened beforehand that got me to this point, and so much learning and so much growing. That's why I'm here. And that's why I was able to take this gift, and use it in the right way. So, but before we got to this point, when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, believe it or not, those were the three questions that were in my spirit. And I was putting it out there, and God was like, okay, I'm going to put it all together. I'm going to put these pieces of the puzzle together, but just be patient. It's going to take some time. And so the three questions that I kept asking myself were that: what do I like? And if you think about it, like we talked about, I was afraid of dogs till I was 28. I wasn't an animal lover when this all happened. I wasn't a dog lover when this all happened, but that's what I've become. So now it's, what do I like, and what do I enjoy, and what do I care about? And, when you put the past and the present with the future, all of a sudden those three questions get answered, but it doesn't necessarily mean they have to be answer specific. So if, like, you ask me, like, what do you like? You'll say, oh, you must love dogs. No, what do I like is I like helping others. I like educating. I like inspiring. That's what I like. What do you enjoy? I enjoy working with people and teaching them how to build a better life with their dogs. I enjoy saving dogs' lives. I enjoy keeping dogs in homes that deserve for them to be there. And what do I care about? I care about all that stuff. I mean, in my particular case, kind of like all those three questions are answered the same way, and that's okay, because now we know. It's like, if you answer those three questions the same exact way, what your purpose is, what you're going to do, and it could be something like building a pen. I like putting the spring in, I like putting the ink, and I like paint, whatever the case may be. If it's something you like, if it's something you enjoy, and if it's something you care about, that's all that matters. Because there's other people are going to say, you know what? I don't understand. That's stupid. Okay, it's stupid to you. Tu sei cretino, affanculo. That's a word that's a phrase you're gonna like hear me say a lot, you know. So I'm gonna instead of saying it in English, I'll say it in that way. It'll be a little bit less, you know, a little less vulgar, sort of. So yeah, so that's kind of like the purpose. And you know, in a world like the world we're living in right now with this pandemic and all this chaos and all this drama, you know, I'm remembering like when I was living in Sicily, and you know, I realize now how, you know, first of all, dogs are simple creatures, you know, and so they don't require a lot. And that's one of the reasons why I love dogs. But I'm also realizing that in life, our own lives, human lives, life is simple. It's just that we tend to complicate it, you know. So, like, again, when I was living in Sicily, life was very simple, you know. There wasn't a lot of requirements. There wasn't a lot of stuff that you was there was just basic life, basic necessities, you know. So for example, I'm remembering there wasn't a like major supermarket chain. So like when you had to buy, you know, your food, there was like smaller versions of supermarkets. And there was the places where you would buy, like, for example, like fish, or fruits and vegetables. This is where I'm talking about the simplicity of life. So you have people that do this for a living. So their job is to sell fruit. Their job is to sell vegetables. Their job is to sell fish. So the process of it is, you know, they would get up in the morning and go to work. And what's their work? Okay, they would go in their garden, in their campagna, e cogliere I broccoli, I cacciolle, you know, the cauliflower and the tomatoes and whatever else there is. And they would put it, there was this thing, I think it was called a lapino, if I'm not mistaken. It looked like a miniaturized pickup truck. And if I'm not mistaken, it had one wheel in the front and two wheels in the back. That's pretty sure that's the one. But it was like a very, very tiny pickup truck, and that's what they used to go around town and sell their fruits and vegetables. So you would hear them driving around. They're like, "Row, row, 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 row," and they would be screaming at the top of their lungs, "Hey, ave mi prune, I varco, cui vole, I varco, che PS, I cacocciole." And they would scream like the stuff that they had on the little lapino. And um and people, you know, would come out the window, hey, hey, go, and the guy would come by and he would drop by. And of course, you know, you'd have like you know, the older people would be like on the terrace, like 2 floors up or whatever. And it's like, hey, how much is the I pruna? A quanto sono I pruna? You know, how much are the artichokes? How much, whatever? Oh yeah, that's good. 2 kilos of this, and quattro chili banana, whatever, you know. And then the process was, there was a basket, right? It's called a upanaro, and it would be attached to a rope. And then the lady would put the money in the basket and drop this basket down through the string. And the guy would put his whatever stuff inside. He would take the money and put the change in. And then she would just, you know, bring this up. And so somebody else, like across the street, would say, "Ah, voglio, you know, 2 kg di cacciola, you know, 2 kilos of artichokes," or whatever it was. And "Oh, signora, calasupanaro," and then that would mean bring down the basket. So, excuse me. So, bring back memories. I haven't thought about this stuff in a long time. So, you know, so she would bring down. They would bring down this other basket, and he would fill it up, and they would pull it up, and that's how you did food shopping. And then, you know, a little while later, you know, you have like the guy who's selling fish, and the guy who's selling fish would get up in the morning. He would get on his little boat, you know, and he would go out to sea, and he would fish and whatever he would get. And he would drive around with like this little, um it was called a lambretta, like a Vespa type deal. I think it was actually a Vespa. And he would be at like a little, like a box, like a small little box. It was very narrow, and he would put it on the back of his Vespa. And in that box was all his catch. And he would go screaming at the top of his lungs, "Hey, side, they jiggy, jiggy, poop." And then people would come out their doors, out their windows, And oh yeah, iside maso frische, iside are these fresh sardines or whatever it was, And oh yeah, quanto vuole? And then they would negotiate prices. No, 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 no. So rumela lire, no, rumela cinque. Okay, rumela cinque. And then he would weigh the things and he would put them in the basket, take the money, and he would take off. And then sometimes these guys were crooks, and they would overcharge some people more than others, and they would like skim on the weight, a couple of grams less or whatever. It was like a little bit of a scamming thing going on every once in a while, but that was kind of like food shopping. It was just a simple process. So people would buy the sardines and buy the octopus and whatever, and buy the artichokes and buy the potatoes and the fruit and whatever, and then they would eat that for lunch, eat that for dinner, whatever the case may be. And that was life. So like when you think about the guy that's selling fish, he's getting up in the morning. People go fishing for sport or for fun. This guy's doing it for a living. So he would go out, he would get his catch, put it in the little Vespa, drive around town, sell it, go home, have dinner with his own family and whatever, maybe take a nap, have a glass of wine, yucara sculpa, whatever he was going to do. And then he would go to sleep, and then repeat the process all over again. And then maybe like on a weekend or holidays, he would get together with the whole family, and they would, arusagain, they would have a barbecue, and, maybe he would go in his back in his campagna and grab some lemons. And it was simple, go to bed, have some coffee, simple life. And that's what dogs are. They lead a very simple life, very basic, very plain. They work, rules, reward. And that was the reward. You come home, you spend it with your family, you eat, you enjoy, you relax, not very stressful. It was calm, it was easy. It was a very simple lifestyle. I'm not sure what it is now, but I don't know if they even still do this kind of stuff, or things have gotten a little more modern, because I could only imagine like the American, people right now going, that's disgusting. He's driving around with fish in his backyard. It's disgusting, all this fumes. Listen, that shit came out right out of the ocean. It was delicious. There was nothing disgusting about it. So, just, grow the hell up. Worse the crap that you're eating at the supermarkets and all the crap that's all toxic. This is fresh stuff. So anyway, I won't get into that conversation, but again, it was just a very, very simple life. And I wish sometimes that we could go back to that and live simple lives, and, stop like stressing out and just fulfill our purpose. This guy, his purpose was to fish. That's his purpose. It was like, these kind of people would pass that generation to generation. Like the kids at like 10 years old, 9 years old would go out in a fishing boat at like 3 o'clock in the morning to go fishing. They learned from the father. They didn't go to school for this kind of shit. They learned instinctually what to do. And this happened for like a bunch of other like variety of jobs, whether it's like my own father. He was a mechanic for cars, and he didn't go to school. He learned by experience. It was just, it is natural for him. It was his purpose to do so, and he learned it, and he excelled at it. He was an expert at it. You know what I mean? So simple life. So I don't know. That's just a little bit of quick stuff that I wanted to get in there. Guys have any questions, let me know. Hope you enjoy some of my stories and some of the stuff that I'm reminiscing about. I haven't thought about these things in a long time, so I'm glad that I got to share with you. So anyway, any questions, anything you want to go over, anything you want to talk about, let me know. Live a life of balance. Remember to be patient, positive, peaceful, and persistent, which is BP4, just one of my sayings. You're going to learn a bunch of that stuff, along with some Sicilian sentences and words. And hope you guys have a great day. Thank you for watching. Barking for Balance. Catch you next time.